Eastern Conference for the playoffs, and I'm excited to see where everybody lands.
Yeah, they got a big game coming up this week too, where they play against the Miami Heat. Actually, I think it's Tuesday, I believe that matchup's going on. So we're gonna have to see how that goes down. That is the Hill Report, ladies and gentlemen. Always some really good stats and nuggets in there. That Andre Drummond stat is really mind blowing, man. I didn't realize that guy was putting in that kind of work in his career so far. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So, of course, topic of the conversation is the NBA playoffs. Let's talk about who's in, who's out for the NBA playoffs, where we stand right now with the season coming to an end. Right now, the teams in the Eastern Conference that have clinched playoff spots would be the top four. So I'm talking Milwaukee, Toronto, Philadelphia, and Indiana have all clinched spots. You got the Celtics at number 5, Pistons at 6. You have the Brooklyn Nets, who came off that tough road trip they had, but they are 6-4 in their last 10 and won their last 2 games. I know we talked about how would they survive that road trip. The Brooklyn Nets, that was the biggest road trip of the year for those guys. And then, of course, we've been talking about it, Miami Heat, 36-37, and right below them at 35-38 is the Orlando Magic. So I kind of feel like when it comes to the top 4, Pat, we know Indiana's probably going to end things at 4. It might be possible to be 5 because Boston's right behind them. But look at those top 3 teams. I think it's no question that Milwaukee's going to end up being number 1. So Toronto and Philadelphia kind of battling it out a little bit for that 2nd and 3rd seed. Of course, the Philadelphia 76ers got some work to do. But I read something with Toronto was not really worried about seeding. Toronto's just worried about getting into the playoffs, and when they get there, they'll just take on who they take on. I guess my question for you real fast would be, in your opinion, who's it more important to have the better seed? Is it more important to Philadelphia to have that home court and start playoffs at home, or is it more important to Toronto?
I honestly would say it's probably Philadelphia, because Philadelphia has more to prove. You know, they're that team that, you know, everybody saw them being good. I don't think I saw them being, you know, top 3 in the Eastern Conference. I mean, clearly adding Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris really changed my mind on that.
Yeah, clearly.
But I honestly say, you know, Toronto, I think, like you said, Toronto's right, though. They'll play whoever. They don't care. They're not scared. They believe they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. Record-wise, maybe not, but they still believe. And they still can be, you know, with their play on the court, be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. So if you ask me that, I definitely think Toronto's the one that wants to be higher, wants to get that home court advantage. You know, you look at them, and they're 29-9 at home, and they're 18-17 away. So I think Philadelphia is the one that needs it more.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And you're right. Philadelphia has a lot to prove. I mean, only now we're starting to see them sort of figure out that rotation. That was the big question everybody had after the trade and making those moves and acquiring the talent they acquired. How was Brett Brown going to get that team to come together and become a cohesive unit? Now we're starting to see him make some moves a little bit. We're starting to see that T.J. McConnell, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons lineup, and that gives a chance for Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris to get out in the court. Butler gets his touches a little bit because they have to worry about having Simmons and having Embiid in the court at the same time. So we'll have to see how that works out in terms of that. And then the battle for 8, man. Who has the right to play Milwaukee? I want to say the fan in me wants Miami to make it so I can really see Dwayne Wade one last dance. So the fan in me wants to see the Miami Heat make the playoffs. But I would be intrigued to see Orlando. I think for an organization that's been in NBA Siberia for so long, I mean, I feel like Horace Grant, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott, those guys, Penny Hardaway, those guys aren't walking through the door for the Orlando Magic. It's been a long time. I mean, the Dwight Howard, Jameer Nelson days since we've seen the Orlando Magic make the playoffs. So I think for that young team with your Aaron Gordons, your Vucevic's, your Terrence Ross, who's playing out of his mind last 20 or 25 games, for that organization to make the playoffs, so they're going to win the series against Milwaukee? Come on. No, they're not going to win the series. Maybe they get a game. But I think for that organization to be big to make the playoffs. But the NBA fan of me wants to see Dwayne Wade one last time.
I mean, you know, D-Wade, Flash. I mean, I grew up, like, when I played basketball when I was younger, I tried to play like, I tried to be D-Wade. I mean, obviously I couldn't jump like him, but man, I tried to play like him. I tried to do everything he did, emulate him. It would be phenomenal to see him make the playoffs his last year, and do. I don't think either team honestly has a chance with if Milwaukee's at full strength. But it would be phenomenal to see Dwayne Wade his final year make the playoffs in Miami of all places as well. You know where he got his start. But hey, man, how exciting would that be to see the Magic go into playoffs? Like, how exciting would it be to see Magic come from where they came from this year?
Yeah.
Have a couple of streaks late in the season and make the playoffs. I don't know how it's. I don't know what. Honestly, I can't say what's going to happen because both teams seem to be streaking lately. But it's going to be fun to see what happens.
Yeah, and let's take a look at the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference before we hop over to the West. If the playoffs started today, we would have, obviously, Milwaukee versus Miami. I like that 4-5 matchup of Indiana versus Boston because I think even without Victor Oladipo, Indiana's proven they can hold the ship and they can kind of be steady, and they're still rocking lock solid at 4 right now. That's a good matchup. And with Boston, I feel like every game is some kind of internal struggle, some kind of battle. You talked about during the Hillary report about Kyrie Irving's comments about the coaching. We called out Brad Stevens a little bit about the coaching in the fourth quarter of that game against Charlotte. You got the Marcus Smart. Will he pop off and make a dumb play that hurts his team? That's an interesting matchup, 4-5. I think 3 and 6 would be Philadelphia and Detroit. I think, again, Detroit, in my opinion, nice to be here kind of story. They might win a game against Philadelphia, but I think they'll just be happy to be back in the playoffs. And then you got 2 and 7, which would be Toronto versus Brooklyn. Brooklyn has no fear. They'll play anybody, anywhere. D'Angelo Russell is my guy. Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm all in with the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, do I think they can beat Toronto in a series? I do not. But I would not be surprised if they won 2 games, maybe even 3 in that series.
I think that's going to be an intriguing series because, like you said, that's D'Angelo Russell's coming out party for the playoffs. Like he's proved this year that he belongs in the NBA after everybody kind of brushed him to the side when he left LA, and they kind of like, oh, you were a top 10, top 5 draft pick. Now what are you? And I think he resurrected his career there in Brooklyn, and it's fun to watch him play. Man, that game, he took over that game a couple weeks ago, and I know he didn't score the final basket. I think Dinwiddie scored the final basket.
It was Hollis Jefferson.
Yes, Hollis and Jefferson. You're right. But, man, for the fact that they came back and won that game, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it just showed me he was balling.
I mean, the game against the Los Angeles Lakers, if the Lakers lost the game, they were eliminated from the playoffs. And Brooklyn beat them. And D'Angelo Russell was on fire. I mean, that guy was ice water in his veins all over the place. And that's a guy that you and I have been a fan of since the second game of the season this year. And we've talked about it before, but I'm not going to let it go. I just think that the D'Angelo Russell being let go by the Lakers just shows me all I need to know about the Lakers and Magic Johnson's talent evaluation. I mean, I understand Hall of Famer, Dream Team, multiple world championships. At some point, he's going to have to come out publicly and admit he made a mistake with D'Angelo Russell. Didn't let the kid have time to develop. We need a better leader, I think is what he said about D'Angelo Russell. Is one of the comments he made. Russell's the clear leader of the Brooklyn Nets team, so I mean...
Hey, in that game I was just talking about, though, he had a career-high 44 points in that game against the Kings. 27 points in the fourth quarter. You don't just score 27 points in the fourth quarter in the NBA. That means you just put in clutch. You just turned on clutch mode. You know what I mean? You went in there like you were heating up. I mean, nobody could stop him. The shots that he was making, I mean, he was drilling them, and he was taking it to the basket as well. And that's the thing I like about his game. It's not just going to the hoop. It's not just 3-pointers. It's the all-around game that he has. And he's got them little herky-jerky moves, too, that get him some space, man. And it looks ugly. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it looks ugly when he does it because he's kind of like doing this. But, man, he can knock down a shot.
The lefties, man. You got to respect the lefties. Let's talk Western Conference. Right now, the Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors have clinched playoff spots in the West, with Denver being 1, Golden State being 2. You got the Rockets at 3. Portland at 4. The Clippers, we talked about them, at 5. Nobody saw that coming this year. OKC at 6. Which OKC team's going to show up? The Utah Jazz that you and I at the beginning of the season were asking, what the hell's wrong with Utah? They were the darlings of the NBA in the playoffs last year, Donovan Mitchell. Well, they got their act together, and they're sitting at number 7 and can go higher still because, remember, 43 and 30 is the record for the Jazz, the Thunder, and the Clippers. It's all about tiebreakers. Then you have the San Antonio Spurs, the team that nobody thought was going to do anything this year, at 42 and 31. And then my favorite NBA League Pass crush, you got the Sacramento Kings at 36 and 36. So it looks like doesn't look like it. The Kings aren't making the playoffs this year. But if I'm a member of that organization, I'm a fan of the Kings. I'm really happy with what I saw this season. The progress we've made with Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, the foundation's there for Sacramento to take a big leap next season and become a legit NBA playoff team. Before we start talking about the West, though, Pat, man, you mentioned it. San Antonio, bro. I mean, once again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Greg Popovich can take you and I and 10 bums. You give him 3 months to train us, to practice, teach us basketball the way he wants basketball to be played, and we will have, at some point during the season, both of us will do something great. Whether it be a key block, take a charge to win the game. The man can coach, man. I mean, Derek White out of Colorado. Who was talking about Derek White before the NBA season started? Because I know I wasn't. And that kid is playing a high level of basketball. Rudy Gay, coming off the ruptured Achilles tendon. Will he be? He hasn't had a great season, but he's a rock-solid veteran. Comes off the bench, plays a key role to help them. And then DeMar DeRozan took him a while to kind of figure out Pop's system, what Pop wanted for him. In my opinion, the best season of his career. But the way he's been playing, he's taking less three-point shots because he realizes, hey, I'm not a three-point shooter. And then LaMarcus Aldridge is just steady. He's a guy that's going to come out there. You know he can roll out of bed and get you 10 and 10. I'm just really, really impressed with all this is happening without Devontae Murray, who got that season-ending ACL injury for the Spurs. We wrote them off. We didn't think they were going to do anything. To all the Spurs fans out there, I never dissed the team, but I apologize for my lack of love for the Spurs. I think what they're doing right now is great.
I mean, you talk about their roster, and again, we talked about Murray when he got injured early in the season, what was going to happen. I mean, you talk about the roster, they got 1, 2, 3, 4. They got 7 players averaging 10 points or more. I mean, that's just a well-rounded roster. I mean, usually you get a couple players that average 20, and then you might have a couple players that average between maybe 10, but not quite 10. I mean, you got a 21-point with DeRozan, 21-point with LaMarcus Aldridge, sorry. Rudy Gay at 14 points. Byron Forbes is averaging 11 points. Who's ever like
exactly?
About people
who the hell is Byron Forbes?
You talk about people you've never heard of. I mean,
he probably used to work for UPS.
I mean, Popovich that's what he does. You know what I mean? He gets guys. Marco Bellinelli, that was a great pickup for them
from out the ashes.
Losing Danny Green was a big thing. You know, when that trade, when Kawhi Leonard left. So getting Bellinelli, that filled that spot. He's that guy, man. He's been knocking down some shots left and right. I mean, he'll jump in the air and float like 7 feet to the left and shoot and fall.
And he has legit playoff experience too.
He's one of those guys. He's like a Robert Horry. He's one of those guys that
in
the playoffs.
I like that.
When it matters, he's the guy that can hit those shots. He's the guy that's been different teams, but no matter how many teams he goes to, he's that guy that hits the big shots when you need him to.
Who else in the Western Conference has impressed you so far as we kind of head to the playoffs?
I mean, you definitely got to talk about Denver. I mean, obviously that's a clear one because Denver is, on a roll right now. They're number one in the Western Conference. Houston, I mean, I can't talk enough about Houston, but that's just me. I'm a James Harden guy. I've loved James Harden. I said he should have won the MVP the year before. Obviously he didn't, but but just looking at the teams in the way he's been playing there with CP3 and they've been picking up some decent players and a lot of great games and stuff going on. But you got to talk about the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, every year we talk about the Portland Trailblazers because what? They make the playoffs. I mean, they make the playoffs. They just have, they don't typically get out of there.
It's that first round. It's always something bad. Like, I like the chance if they play the Clippers. That might be their ticket to get out the first round finally. And I mean, I'm a huge. The way you feel about Kemba Walker is the way I feel about Damian Lillard. I think that guy's one of the top 4 point guards in the NBA. But because he's all the way out there in Oregon and people on the East Coast are all asleep when his games come on, they don't give that guy any love. You watch 1 or 2 games he plays against Eastern Conference teams, like, oh my God, this guy's phenomenal. Well, he's always been phenomenal. He's always been a great player.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got Nurkic. That's a big guy that people don't talk enough about. That I really like. I like his game. He plays defense. He plays hard. With CJ McCollum down, they're going to have to have some other players.
You talked about Curry.
Big.
You talked about Curry.
Yeah, Curry. I mean, you got to get Hood. He's got to start getting better. But yeah, all around. I mean, they have a great. I mean, they're good. They're a good team.
Once he gets on fire, Kanter's on that squad now too. Yep, he's good.
Once he gets on fire, Lillard. That team's tough.
Yeah.
Because he makes other players better around him. Yeah, he'll knock down the shots, but once he starts catching on fire and you start sending somebody to him, he hits the guy cutting to the basket for an easy layup, or he hits the guy in the corner for an open 3. So his basketball IQ is pretty high. Do not look down on Lillard because he will make
logo Lillard. They call him, baby. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that one, man. Now, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the season, and both of us were all in on Luka Doncic, and we still are all in on him as a player for sure. But, as you talked about earlier during the Hillard report, Trae Young has shut up a lot of people. There was rumors of him, and it's super, in my opinion, super unfair to the kid. It's his first year. He has to get acclimated to the NBA.